Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Figma Love Machine from Summer Wars, which is something I'm still not familiar with, but I'm reviewing the guy for you anyway. So it's a really cool looking figure. The character design itself is kind of cool, and they seem to have done a good job with it. I haven't watched the movie yet. I guess it's a movie, right? Or a series. People keep recommending it to me, but there's so many things people recommend to me, I can't watch them all in time for the figure reviews, unfortunately. Still, we can review the figure because a figure is a figure. Doesn't matter what it's from. So it's a cool looking figure with some cool accessories, and let's get him off the stand and take a closer look because there's a lot of detail to this guy. Okay, so this guy stands about almost 18 centimeters to the top of his head, which makes him almost 7 inches tall, so very good size for a Figma. He's got a lot of height to him, and he's got a decent amount of bulk and some pretty cool sculpted parts. He does have a lot of accessories, but we're going to get to those in a minute. So I'm just going to take that off, and I'm going to take this out for now, just so that it's not in the way of what we're looking at. So he's got a lot of sculpted detail and a lot of just painted detail. So let's look at his chest first. You can see all of these lines here very cleanly painted, not sculpted though. The only sculpted ones are these ones on the side here for his ribs, the ones up here by his shoulders, and then his necklace. Obviously we have like some bands and things around that are sculpted, but none of this is sculpted. It's all just painted on. Still looks really cool though. Is it sculpted on the hands? It is not. See, it's so cleanly painted that I keep thinking parts are sculpted when they're actually not, but they really nailed the paint job on this guy. It looks fantastic. Really, really well done. And then the sculpt, like I said, the sculpted parts are really good too. So it's a really cool looking figure. So let's look at the accessories, then we'll get into him up close. So the first thing is his head. It does come apart. You can take the face off, you pull it down, and then you can separate the eyes from the face to put in different eyes for different poses. However, it's really tricky, so I'm not going to do it on camera, but I will show you the alternate eyes. Essentially, you just have eyes that look left and eyes that look right. So those are right here, and they're very tiny, kind of hard to tell what they are without having them in the figure. But that's the eyes looking left. Like I said, they're very tiny, but they do work. They're perfectly functional. I'll show you in the photos at the end. And that is the eyes looking to the right. Well, actually, they're looking right and then left, but oh, you get what I did. I did it backwards because I'm looking at them instead of being them. Anyway, and then we have the eyes looking straight forward. So very nicely done. It looks really cool. Very nice sculpt work and everything for the head. So it's very good. You just have to be super careful because these are really fragile pieces that you could break while swapping out those eyes. So be careful. And then as far as hands go, we have the 2 fist hands. So we have a fist hand on either side. That's how it comes in the package. And then we have a tree of 8 hands. So I already have the fist hand here because I had one of the gripping hands out. We have a gripping hand, and then we have 2 more gripping hands that are at slightly different angles. That way he can hold his staff. Then we have these 2 kind of just flat open palm hands. And then we have the 2 style pose hands. So as you can see, they're sculpted really nicely. Nice organic sculpt. And they have that really clean paint job on there, so it looks really good. And then we have this ring, which is for his keys, and I guess he has keys. Now there may be some particular way these are meant to go on. It mentions it in the instruction little pamphlet thingy. I just threw them on there because I don't know anything about this. But we do have those, and those are all removable and interchangeable and whatever you want to do. And we have this piece, which I guess is kind of like supposed to hold them in place. I don't know, but you guys that are familiar with the show know, and then you can appreciate the fact that these are all included. So that's kind of nifty. And then the ring itself, it just kind of snaps apart like that. It's not like an actual key ring, so that's a good thing. And obviously his hand can hold it. So that's one of the accessories. The other one you already saw requires this little clear piece that pegs into his back. And then you get this, which is nicely painted. We have the white stripes going around it. And this just slides on over 2 of the pieces. They kind of go around it like that. So you can see the 2 outright or upright, straight out, whatever you want to call them, pieces go kind of through the holes in the bottom of this, and it snaps onto the main ring. And that just pegs into his back. So that's pretty cool. And then we also get his staff, which is really big. I have to put my arms all the way out so that the camera can get it at this angle. but it's really, really long in relation to the figure. Maybe I can zoom out a little bit. I can zoom out a lot of it. So you can see it's really big, and it does separate at one of the ends so that you can put it in his hand. So that's really good. Don't have to worry about anything scratching, at least not too much. And then lastly, we get whatever this guy is. I'm not familiar. All I know is he's got a peg and a stand so that you can put him in the air and you can make it look like he's getting punched or kicked. So he's got a decent batch of accessories. Pretty cool looking figure in general. Let's run through the articulation. He does have shading, by the way, in all of the skin tones. It's all shaded, so that looks really cool in addition to all of those blue lines. So it's very nice. The head is on a standard Figma ball peg, ball hinge, ball peg combination. It's not quite what we see on most of the figures, but it's essentially the same. So we have the hinge, and then we have the ball peg that lets it move around. So full range of motion there. Then the neck itself is on a ball peg, and it has the outer neck that just floats on top of it to kind of hide the joint. So no problems there. Standard Figma shoulder, so it's a ball, it's a ball hinge with a straight peg that goes into the torso, lets it move around, and then we have the hinge on the outside with the bicep swivel. It is pretty limited due to how they put it together. You can see the shoulders are kind of sunken in to the torso, so you can't move it all that well without being at weird angles. So that's a little bit disappointing. We have our standard Figma elbow joint, that works just fine. And then you saw already the hands have their own hinges and pegs. For the torso, we have, I'm assuming it's a standard Figma hinge. I couldn't really get it apart though, but it feels like it moves forward and back pretty well. But side to side, just a tiny bit and just a tiny bit of rotation, so it's okay. Then the lower torso, we have a hinge, kind of like the Super Action statue figures, but it just really won't move at all. So, I don't know. I can't really tell you much about that other than it won't move. This is completely floating, and then there's a single peg underneath there that connects the lower torso to the crotch piece. So the entire upper torso can just move around. So that's pretty good, good range of motion. This has a standard Figma hinge on it, so you can move that around. This is a floating crotch piece. Standard Figma hips where we have the ball pegs with the hip sockets, so you can move the hips around in there. Not the best range of motion, but it will probably be sufficient. You can rotate them on the thigh a little bit. We have a single jointed knee, which works okay. I would have preferred a little more of a symmetrical look, but it's really not too bad. Once you get imposed, it looks pretty good. So I think that's a much better design than if they had done something a little more traditional. That wouldn't have looked good. So this is a good option. We have standard Figma ankles. However, they don't give you the best range of motion if they're up all the way. So you're going to want to wiggle them down just a little bit, and then you can get a really nice range of motion out of that. It's a little trick you can do on a lot of Figmas, actually. But you do get an ankle rocker out of it, and you do get the paintwork on the heels. So overall, it's a pretty well done figure. Some questionable choices for the articulation, but on the whole, it's a pretty nice figure, and I think if you're a fan of this series, you're probably going to want to pick it up. The pros far outweigh the cons. It's a very nice shelf piece for sure. Posability just might be a problem for some people, but for the most part, it's pretty darn good. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.